Assalamualaikum and greetings to our respected lecturer for labor migration and mobility, Mr. Fazli bin Abdul Hamid. Welcome to my fellow audience and thank you for lending your time today to listen for this podcast session. What might be the topic that we will discuss today? Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin this podcast, I will introduce myself. My name is Mazni binti Awang Ma'ruf and my friend here named Farah Dania Erin.
Hi everyone, I am very honored to be invited on today's podcast session. Thank you very much for inviting me.
My pleasure, Farah. How are you today?
So far so good, the traffic runs smoothly. I also had my favorite cup of coffee this morning. Overall, it has been a wonderful day. How about you, Mazni?
I'm fine, thank you. Long time no see. Hopefully we will have a good chit-chat today. Before we further ado, today we will be discussing the topic on a dilemma of job mobility versus employee mobility. Well, I think I will continue this session by asking my friend here about today's topic. Can you share a little bit on what you know about job mobility, Farah?
Of course, Mazni, career in many industries nowadays no longer unfold within the internal labor markets of large organizations, but rather develop as series of shifts and ladders, with stable employment spell interspersed by job mobility between different firms. For instance, a recent LinkedIn report once showed that the average college graduate today move employers 4 times in the first 10 years of their career. For workers on such boundaryless careers, one of the key challenges is to use job movement to build a career trajectory that favorably signal their quality, skills, and value to the market. Management scholars have generally argued that in labor markets characterized by imperfect information, market evaluators infer the qualities and skills of individuals by interpreting signals in their career history. In external labor markets, one such signal is formed by the job mobility of individuals. Job movement are publicly observable events due to promotion in internal labor markets. In order to understand the employer and sector switching behavior, it is important to understand job mobility. Job mobility takes 2 forms: leaving a current employer but staying with a sector, or switching sectors. Switching sectors was initially defined by Bosman and Ponomarev 2009 as moving out of sector and into another.
We can see nowadays that working from the country of choice is seen as equivalent of working from home for globally mobile millennials. Some companies are still struggling to deal with the complexity and cost of traditional employee mobility and are looking for ways to attract and leverage new talent to increase job satisfaction and reduce employees from leaving their job for another. Farah, do you think is it time to consider moving jobs to people as opposed to relocating employees to destinations where jobs are based?
Moving people to jobs is sometimes problematic during COVID-19 pandemic because most countries are still closing their borders, while moving jobs to the people might prove equally challenging. This could, however, open up new opportunity for both employees and company. What do you think about it, Mazni?
The traditional approach of mobility, moving people to jobs, has allowed companies to support and accelerate their move to become global. Yet, the traditional barriers to mobility and the costs associated with traditional expatriate assignments remain a significant burden for companies. The issues that are still limiting traditional global mobility include the assignment cost. Some long-term assignments might be replaced by shorter types of moves, but overall the number of assignments is going up and the budget dedicated to mobility is not unlimited. According to Olivia Meir 2017, There are several more issues that are still limiting traditional global mobility, which are the dual career issues, family issues, and immigration issues. For the dual career issues, there are ways to alleviate the concerns of the spouse, like example, by providing assistance with the job search, coaching, or a contribution to training or education costs. Aside from dual career issues, questions concerning family, such as schooling, can result in huge costs for the company and force family to make difficult decisions about the future of their children. And for the immigration issues, there is a disconnect between increasing willingness of people to move and the international mobility limitation due to visas, work permit restrictions, quotas, and other legal restrictions.
Yes, that's right. I agree with you. It is true that the traditional approach of mobility, moving people to jobs, has allowed companies to support and accelerate their move to become global. Yet, the traditional barriers to mobility and the costs associated with traditional expatriate assignment remain a significant burden for companies. So, Mazni, what do you think is the factor why moving jobs to people are more relevant than moving people to jobs?
There are several factors why nowadays moving jobs to people are more relevant is because technology is a major enabler for mobility. Its impact has sometimes been exaggerated in the past, and the limitations of having to exchange emails, run conference calls, and send back and forth data between databases in different countries. The advent of cloud computing, collaborative tools, and real-time reporting dashboards is changing. That is why employees choose moving jobs to people. Other than that, in this era, the generational implied changes in mentalities. The millennials are more mobile than their predecessors but also have high expectations and preference in terms of how and where they want to live that sometimes had caused them to leave their current job in order to expand their career and achieve the lifestyle they have wanted. What about your opinion, Farah?
I agree with you. In my opinion, having said that switching sectors potentially represent a costly move, although there are no good cost estimate for the federal service, for an individual workers, there is the cost of learning a new organizational culture and role. Sector-specific skills might also be less useful or transferable. For organization, movement of labor across sectors might bring the benefits of improved innovation and better fiscal outcomes. Yet, most personnel specialists believe the cost of high turnover on this situation exceed the benefits.
I agree, Farah. Your opinions are considerable. I believe that each statement stated has both pros and cons. However, lack of job flexibility can force the employee to leave their job. In your opinion, what is the causes of leaving jobs?
In the existing public administration literature, millennials as the largest portion of the current workforce has stated a few causes of leaving jobs. One of them is salary or pay. Along with job security and benefits, pay is one of the rewards employees expect from putting in effort at works. There could be a difference in the importance of compensation based on sector of employment. Yet, compensation still factors into a person's decision to choose or switch an employer or sector, while considering the risks associated with such movement. Government employees are driven to join and stay in the public sector by the commitment to serve others. By the same token, non-profit employees are willing to donate their labor to the cause and organization is serving and receive lower compensation. Being committed to the organization or the cause, those employees accept the limited benefits such as professional development, raise, and promotions, and are oriented to serve a mission and the sector as a whole. Notably, some scholars have downplayed the significance of pay as a preference or influence to move between sectors, especially from the private sectors to the public sector. This is particularly common during time of economic instability, which signify budget cuts and lower pay in both the public and non-profit sector, leading scholars to caution against the increased mobility and turnover, particularly of non-profit employees that are usually motivated by pay differential.
Yes, I really agree on that, considering salary or pay are the main reasons for turnover during this time of pandemic COVID-19. However, you have mentioned earlier that this factor had causes major dissatisfaction, that in the end it may lead to lack of motivation and burnout. My curiosity is, are the job dissatisfaction also contribute millennials to leave their job?
Scholars stated that employees expressing high job satisfaction being unlikely to leave. By the same token, the more employees feel dissatisfied with the organization, the easier it is for them to leave. After all, an individual looks for and stays in a job that best satisfies her needs or value, and a dissatisfied worker will leave for another job or organization. Generally speaking, job dissatisfaction can be the result of personal or organizational factors or a mix of both, such as personal value, work-life balance, person-organization fit, job design, or organizational culture. Scholars examine different options employees have when they become dissatisfied with the job. A dissatisfied employee could quit his or her job or voice concern to the management, or alternatively, could be loyal to the organization or the job itself and neglect the situation. The decision will depend on a variety of factors, including prior satisfaction with and personal investment in the job, and could vary by the sectors of employment. In my opinion, that is why moving jobs to people are better than moving people to jobs, as it can become a solution to reduce turnover and at the same time contribute to a win-win situation on both employee and organization needs.
It was indeed such an eye-opening fact. Since we are talking in more detail on this job mobility scenario, maybe you can share about the barriers to moving jobs and what do you think can be the factors?
The obvious first limit is that not all jobs are movable. Depending on the industry sector and specific requirement of each company, the number of jobs that are truly movable will differ. A more realistic objective is not to totally replace employee mobility by job mobility, but to have the possibility of moving some jobs to employees as an additional and complementary option. From a practical perspective, organizations might not have the right processes in place to manage this type of mobility. A range of these issues about reporting lines, HR local support, and payroll arrangement could complicate the move. Planning career development and next step can also be tricky. When companies make mobility a precondition for a specific career path, offering too much flexibility to the employees might not be a desirable option. Tax compliance and immigration consideration can present significant barriers and even risks for the company. If the new form of mobility fall under the radar, the risk of employees to triggering unforeseen tax liability or being non-compliant for an immigrant perspective is significant. The fact that a move is triggered by the employee or provision in the policy indicating that employees are required to be taxed and immigration compliant doesn't fully exonerate the company from its responsibilities and from liabilities. Personal data protection regulation preventing data transfer across borders is also an issue sometimes underestimated by companies. Another barrier can also simply be that the company has no existing operations and no desire to have a permanent establishment in the location where the assignee want to be based. In some case, having the employees as freelancer can help solve this problem.
As we both can agree that moving jobs to people is not going to fully replace traditional mobility, but it is one more tool in the growing arsenal that companies need to deploy to manage employee mobility. Besides, reducing employee turnover, it can become an effective solution on employee retention. I think that is all for today. It was a wonderful session with you today. Maybe we can discuss more on this topic in the future, as it was a very interesting topic.
Yeah, I hope we can spend more time in the future for this kind of talks. Indeed, it was a very good experience. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. For everyone, stay safe and stay healthy. See you guys on the session.